Hey everyone, welcome back to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This is a show all about farmers markets and how to increase your market business success. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a farmer or food producer selling at farmers markets, this is the podcast for you. On today's episode of Tent Talk, we're talking about making decisions today that will benefit your market or business for the long term. It's not always easy, but it's very important.
It is important.
Hey everyone, I'm Brijet Myers, and I'm one of your hosts here. I've spent years and years and years as an on-site farmers market manager, and I do it all from pulling permits to placing porta potties.
Does it feel like years and years and years today?
Years and years and years and years and years.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
I'm Catt White. I'm your other host. I'm director of San Diego Markets, still an active farmers market manager, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and producer of Intense, the Farmers Market Conference, coming right up.
Coming up so soon. Welcome back, everyone, to Tent Talk. It's been a busy January already,
Yes,
to say
it
the
has.
least. To say the very least. But I love January because it's full of new things and exciting things. And this time next week, we will be meeting some of you, some of our very own listeners, live and in person at Intense, the Farmers Market Conference here in San Diego.
We'll be halfway through.
We'll be halfway
This
through.
time next week, we'll be halfway through.
Can't believe it.
We'll have already had dinner with John Piatti.
So exciting. Our bellies will be full.
Yep. We'll have heard from Jenny at Phoenix Bean.
Love
and
it.
We'll be plunging into day 2 of 3.
Oh, so excited. We'll be staring out the window right now, looking at the pretty boats.
That's right.
While we're eating our lunch, maybe.
But it has been hectic.
Yes.
I mean, there's 1,001 details to putting on a conference. And if we could just do that, it'd be easy. But of course, we do have 3 farmers markets a week to run. So just like y'all out there, we're also dealing with vendor schedules and maps and, end of the year, new permits and a new location. We've added on a substantial area to one of our markets and filling that up. So yeah, it's been busy.
Yeah, just all that background stuff, accounting, EBT, all the fun things
Quarterly
that
reports.
have to be done that are boring and I want to scratch my eyes out, but they have to be done. And
Part of the deal.
It's part of the deal. So we're doing it, and we're also doing conference stuff, which is fun.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
fun.
the conference
It's a lot of
stuff.
work, but it's a lot of fun.
Yep.
And we're seeing fun new vendor applications right now.
Yeah, as we
that's been
usually
cool.
do around the beginning of the
Right.
year, which I know we've talked about on an episode of Tent Talk recently. But yeah, all the great new applications coming in. And something very special was delivered.
Oh, and big boxes of swag on the doorstep today.
Cat's heart was so happy. I won't
Don't
give
tell.
any.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. I did take a picture, but I won't post it.
Just
But
of the boxes.
Yeah.
You can post the pictures of the boxes. Don't post a picture of what was inside. We'll do that next week.
Yep.
Yeah.
So right now, if you're listening to this podcast, check us out on our social media, and you can kind of see what's going on at the conference if you're not there this year. So that'll be fun. We can still kind of stay in touch with you. What else is going on?
Well, we've had some fun notes on Instagram and in emails lately about some of our recent episodes. So raise your hand if you're trying to do a better job of telling people where you are.
We're raising our hand, but no one can see us because this is like radio, okay, Kat?
Oh, yeah.
We're
Can't see
not
them
on
raise their
video.
hands.
Yeah,
I
we
know
don't.
some of you are raising them, though.
We've had a few folks posting their market locations and tagging us in their posts. Thank you for listening and following instructions, and we love that.
And it's making your business better.
Yeah, exactly. They're showing us, hey, we heard your podcast about telling people where we are, where our market is, or where our booth is today, or whatever day you have a market. And they're just tagging us, see Farmers Market Pros. You can see where we are, and we love it.
Yeah, so keep doing that. We'll give you a shout out when you do that. That's fun.
Yeah, we love it.
Tell them where you are.
Yep. And we're really glad that all of our tips and chats and interviews and all those things are helping people. That's why we put this podcast together, is to share our knowledge and kind of fold people into this world. So today we're talking about making decisions right now based not just on what's going to happen today, but how it will affect your operation in the long term.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that comes up a lot this time of year because people are either plunging into new businesses. They're like, okay, January's starting. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to get out of the cubicle. I'm going to start my business. Or I'm going to get off the farm and get out there into the community and sell my stuff. Or if you're a market manager, this is the time of year, oftentimes, especially in year-round markets, where there's a lot of turnover. So you're evaluating new applications and you're looking at different locations possibly and different new markets. So these are the times when you don't want to be just shooting from the hip, even though you're really, really eager and excited to go.
Because we see people do that sometimes, and it's exciting, and they're off to a great start, and then they just really didn't plan ahead, and it kind of fizzles out.
Yeah.
You know, after a few months or even halfway through the year, and it's so sad.
It is sad.
Plan ahead to
Yeah.
Avoid the sadness.
Have some patience
Yeah.
and work your way through the steps. So food makers, for instance.
Yep.
You don't want to rush.
Definitely.
You want to wait to apply to your target markets until your product is really table ready. We get
Please.
so many applications where people are, here's what I want to sell. And you ask them a few questions about permits. They've never heard of them. You ask them questions about their product line and they've got, they're selling pizza and donuts. They don't have a thematic product line figured out in their heads.
That could be a theme. That could be pregnant lady eat here booth.
Next to the pickles. Yeah, but you want to make sure that you have it figured out before you come to the market manager, because we get really goofy applications once in a while, and sometimes you can still tell that it's somebody that's really sincere about being in business and they've got some skills. You can see from the products they're putting together that they're good, and we'll nurture them through, or we'll direct them to our Vendor 101 class. But you're also just a little bit skeptical, and so it'll take a while for us to forget that they came to us initially without a clue and that they might not be that business-like. So, to get a little bit more respect and have your farmer's market manager really consider you a good prospect, do some of that homework before you get to the point where you make an application.
Definitely. Yeah. We always kind of come back to this, but farmers markets seem so fun and everyone's out there having a good time, and people might think of it as like a bake sale, but it's a professional business. So just treat it as such. You wouldn't, present an idea to like a new company or a client or your boss without really kind of polishing it and putting it together. So think of market managers the same way.
Exactly.
Yes, we're here to help, bring new people into our markets and help bring great products into the market. But we don't do, a lot of market managers don't have time to do one-on-one consulting with a million new vendors, brand new vendors who haven't taken the time to do the research themselves.
Right.
So I think it gets confusing. And I try to remind myself, like, people just don't know that. They think that we are here to consult. But just if you're listening and you're thinking about doing a food business, or you're a market vendor with that's a food maker, think about it as your market manager is not there to help your business along. You have to take that initiative, and then we'll be more of like a partner with you.
Right. Certainly not from the start. We help people along and we help them hone things, but you need to do the homework that's part of getting a business started yourself before you get to us.
Please.
And then if we can see that you've done that, certainly we'd be happy to answer specific questions and help. If you're looking for one ingredient, we want you to use local ingredients. You're looking for that one ingredient, you haven't been able to find it, we'll hook you up with a farmer. But if you send me a list of 40 ingredients and say, where do I get this stuff? That's not really my job. That's your job. So you got to get a little farther on your own first.
Exactly. And go out to the market and check it out. Please don't call market managers and say, how busy is your market? What's the foot traffic there? Do you have another jam vendor there?
I just got off the phone with a guy.
I can't.
I said, have you visited any of these markets you want to go to? And he goes, I don't know. I've been to one. And I said, well, then you need to get out there and look around. Then you won't need to ask me, is there anybody selling what I'm selling? You'll know.
Yep.
You'll know.
Use your feet, use your eyes.
That's right.
That's what I tell people. Go out there. Come say hi. Like, we're at the market. Come say hi. Don't ask us a million questions in the market because we're busy. But come out there and check it out. It'll be a good experience for people looking to get involved in farmers markets too, because you can get a good feel if you're out there looking at people's tents and product and label. You're looking at it with a different eye than just a shopper. And you can get a better idea of if this market might be a good fit for the product you have in mind.
And that'll give you a good idea too of what level of completion and professionalism your product's got to be at before you're ready for a market.
Precisely.
So go look at what other people are selling.
Yeah, because different market managers have different ways of curating their market.
That too.
It's all personal kind of choice and preference. We all follow the same kind of guidelines depending on the county and state that we're in. But really, it's the market manager kind of makes that market their own. So go out there and see, would this kind of be in alignment with that? And if not,
are these your people?
Are these your people? And if not, find another market. It's great. There's a lot of different markets, which makes it really great. And, depending on where you are, I know there's some places where there's not a ton of different farmers markets, but you can find a few different ones in your area and just find one that is really going to get you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a good fit for you.
Exactly.
Make sure your labels are accurate.
Yep.
Make sure you've figured out with a food product if your cost of goods and the price that you can get for your product are going to leave you a profit.
Yeah.
That's why you're there. This is not a hobby thing. This is a business. And so you don't want to be doing this, and you're not going to do it for very long unless you can make a profit at it. So dig down, make sure that you know what it's costing you to produce that product and then what the difference is between that and what you can sell it for.
Evaluate your business. Is this a charity? Are you donating to something? Are you donating to the shoppers at the market, the cost of your product? You should not be, and it's not sustainable.
And actually, every once in a while, we have somebody say that. They'll say, oh, well, I really just want to do this to get out of the house, so I don't care if I make any money. I'm going to make this bread or this product, and I don't care if I don't charge much. I'd give it away. Well, I got to tell you, that's not going to make you the most valuable vendor in terms of the other vendors who are trying to support their families by selling. They want you to be realistic. They don't want you to sell at less than what your cost is, because then it's going to make it difficult for them to sell in a reasonable business-like manner.
Exactly. Yeah, I explained it to a vendor that I had this conversation with a few years ago. I said, how sometimes people show up with like Lara bars or Red Bull or whatever, and they're like giving away in the market. Don't get me started on that. That's a different, that was a podcast episode, actually, uninvited guests. But I go, as a vendor who's trying to make a living and have this be their business or full-time job or their side hustle that's really supposed to be bringing in that extra income, do you appreciate someone showing up and giving those same shoppers that you want to buy your product something for free, that they don't care if they're giving it away? That's exactly how other vendors are going to feel if you're don't really care and you'll sell it for whatever and you're not taking it very seriously. It's the same kind of idea.
Right.
So you need to take your business seriously, because we all are, and it's a group effort.
Yeah, we're all in this together. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Not to mention, people say that and then they just don't understand. You're going to get up at 5:30 in the morning on Saturday and schlep your tent out there and be
for fun?
and be in the rain or in the snow. We've seen photos of farmers markets in the snow. Way to go, team.
Go Vancouver.
Yeah, but if you're just not taking your business seriously, you're not going to want to do that. Just believe me, you're not going to want to. So just take it seriously. Or if it really is a hobby, stay home and bake your bread for your family and friends, and everyone will enjoy it.
Take it to your kid's school.
Yeah,
take it to another group.
You might get the same pleasure out of it, or actually make your bread and give it to a charity. Give it to people who need food. There's a lot of different ways to give your food. Being at a farmer's market is not the place to turn it into a charity where you're not taking that kind of personal investment in your business.
Yeah. This is grocery store in the street, right? We've all got to do it on a business-like level.
For sure.
You may change your product as you go along. Markets are the very best focus groups because the customers will tell you what they like. Mm-hmm. But you want to have a pretty good idea of what you're going to be selling and how you're selling it before you start. First impressions matter.
Definitely.
For sure.
Yeah.
The other thing that we want you to not jump too fast on, we want you to think this through. We just had a vendor at one of our markets that got spotted by a buyer from a local grocery store chain. Mm-hmm. And that's awesome. It happens all the time. Whole Foods used to be famous for coming out to the farmers markets and foraging and finding vendors that they would want to get onto their shelves.
We're saying foraging and not poaching anymore.
Poaching's such a harsh word.
It's such a harsh word. No, we're happy for that.
We're good. It's good.
It's
and
good.
We are happy for them.
Yeah.
As long as they continue to make money. So I told this vendor, great, congratulations. Glad you're going to be in this grocery store. They were talking about expanding to some more markets, and they're going to stay with just the ones they're in because they need to concentrate on more production for this wholesale thing. I said, so how did you need to adjust your prices to sell at wholesale so that you're still making money on it? And they said, what? And I said, so what's your costing model and your pricing model for selling at wholesale versus at the market? And she said, what? So they hadn't thought this through, and I guess that's natural. It seems so obvious to me, but if you haven't been in this business, maybe it's not obvious that if you're going to have to sell at a price to that grocery store where they can make the margin between what you sell it to them for and what they sell it to the customer for. Well, that's going to take a big chunk off the top of your income. So you need to make sure that you've recosted for that and make it make sense. In the case of these people, I said, you know what? You need to jump in right this minute and get in touch with Allie Ball, our retail-ready friend, Allison Ball consultant. And I think they did. They immediately got in touch with her because she can teach you all that you need to know about transforming your market product into a retail-ready product.
Exactly. You can't make it up with quantity. You can't sell 1 million bags of dimes for 1 million bags of nickels.
And come out ahead.
You can't come out ahead. Just math.
Just math. Yeah.
So getting into a store is really exciting. But remember that when you're selling at the farmer's market, you can sell a price that makes sense for you to hand it directly to the consumer. There's nobody in the middle. When you're in a retail situation, there's just that middle person. There's that store distributor. So you need to factor that into your pricing structure.
Right. So just don't get so excited that a buyer loves your product that you jump ahead without thinking through all those things. It is exciting to see your product on a store shelf, but just make sure you're still making money. Slow down just a minute, take a breath, check your numbers before you go in that direction.
Definitely. And not just saying this as a self-serving thing to say, but it is nice when you stay in the farmer's market, even if your items do get picked up for retail, because we have a lot of vendors that have their product in stores. We have some vendors who have their products in like Costco and other big chain stores, but they stay in the farmer's market because it keeps that personal relationship. And they're like, it just sustains the business.
Right.
It just helps make it feel like this is still a local business, and we want to keep that feeling about it.
And you keep getting your customers' feedback. I mean, it's the only form of marketing where somebody pays you to do marketing.
Exactly.
You're selling things, but you're still out there spreading your name, getting to know your customers, cementing those relationships.
Precisely. Yeah.
That's good.
It's a great thing. Farmers too?
I mean, it's the same thing. You want to rush, you're ready, you think, but you want to make sure you're ready before you apply to your target markets. It's funny with farmers. I don't know if they're checking it out. I mean, I can kind of understand this. It's sort of a chicken and egg thing, so to speak.
I like that pun.
Right. But maybe they want to figure out if there's a place for their product before they put it in the ground.
Yeah.
But sometimes, for some reason, it always happens that it's not really noted on the application. It'll say start date, and it's next week. Maybe they're just not paying attention to the application. And I'll get a farmer's application, and I'm always so excited to have a new farmer, especially if they're growing something we don't have a lot of. And I'll get right back to them. And then they say, well, I'm not actually going to be ready until insert 4 months from now date. And we don't really know what we're going to have for space 4 months from now, because if a farmer turns up next week and they really are ready, they're taking it out of the ground, they're ready to be at the booth, we're going to take them. We're not going to leave that space empty for 4 months. So it's a little bit tricky. But yeah, you want to make sure that you've got the permits that you need. Luckily, those tend to not take quite as long as some health department permits. So you have a little bit of time to work on that, but you want to make sure you have those permits. Do you have enough harvests right now to make your table look full? I mean, maybe you have 17 things on your cert, but most of them aren't going to be ready to harvest for 3 months. So you got to look at that.
Yeah, and look at how much you're harvesting. Like once you do get going, is it a small amount of crops, but you're only targeting like the biggest, baddest, oldest farmers markets in town? It's like we've have people show up at our big Saturday market and their table is so puny and it has a few crops on it. It lasts for an hour and a half in a 6-hour market.
Right.
That's just not good for the whole market. It frustrates shoppers that come later in the market. So make sure you're ready and you have enough to harvest.
To fill.
Exactly.
Or you look at a smaller market if you're just doing a small harvest. So, I mean, unless you're growing something really different than what anybody else has, and even then, if you don't have enough of it to last longer than the first hour of the market, it's problematic. But unless you have something really different, you're going to have a hard time attracting customers who are more attracted to the bigger, more lush displays and the more familiar farmers with the full tables. But if you take that small harvest and you start at kind of a newer market or a smaller market, you can be a big fish in a small pond, and you can start to build your own big following. When your harvest gets bigger, when your farm gets bigger, you're going more of the year, maybe then move into a bigger market. By then the farmers market managers will know you. They'll know how your performance is. They know you show up on time. And you take that bigger harvest to a bigger market, and those loyal shoppers will follow you, or they'll still come see you at your smaller midweek market and then follow you to the bigger market. I mean, it's just got to be sort of a step-by-step thing. So again, think about that long term. I know it's exciting to pull those first crops out of the ground and say, all right, I'm ready for a big market. But you don't really want to be off the farm for 6 hours standing at a table when you've sold out in the first hour.
Exactly. Like make it worth your time. So make sure you have enough to sell and kind of get through the day, the market day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And farmers too, it's maybe not quite as important as with food makers or markets, but spend a little time on developing your name and a bit of a logo and a banner. You will definitely increase your sales if you add a little marketing to your mix. Mm-hmm. I know farmers aren't famous for having that on their minds. You've got so much else to work at, but we see a lot of farmers, even really small farmers, that have put a little thought into that and have a recognizable name, a nice logo on their banner, and they're selling so much more because of it.
Yeah, exactly. You have to make those connections. I mean, it's 2020, so we all have to jump in there no matter what. And farmers are like the busiest and work the longest days out of all of us. But really making like that little extra pitch for people to recognize you, make sure they know who you are, chat with them, have that banner, have those recipe cards or something that kind of helps you stand out. It'll really help the bottom line in your business. It'll make it more worth your time. And that's what we always say, like, make it worth it for you to pack up your car. Usually the farmers are driving the furthest because they're driving into the big city from their farm to go to like the popular markets or the busier markets where they can make a better profit. Make that all worth it for you. Be there and kind of work that 6 hours as best you can in the environment where you are, which is people want to see marketing. They want to know where to find you. They want to know what your name is. They want to see pictures of you on your farm and see a cute logo and all that stuff and get that little recipe card and, do all those things. Charlotte Smith talks a lot about farm marketing from the heart and doing some marketing from your farm. And it's, an important thing to help that business.
That's right. So wait until you get some of that groundwork, some of that homework done before you plunge into markets. And in the long run, you'll be so much more successful.
Yes.
Yeah. So, if you don't know what you need, if you don't know what you don't know, maybe, and you don't know what you need to do to get started, we have a Vendor 101 program. In fact, we have a live and in-person class coming up here. When?
Yes, we do. It's on Monday, March 9th. If you're local here if you're looking to start a farmer's market business in San Diego County, we do a class as often as we can.
As often as we can. It's been tight this year.
Yeah.
And then we'll have an online version of that class coming up soon, so that's good. But also look around where you are, because a lot of times your local farmers market association or your local, maybe a manager of a big market, will have some kind of educational program that you can get into. Your farm bureau, a lot of times they'll run a class once or twice a year on how to be successful at markets. So look around, take advantage of the educational opportunities that are out there.
Exactly. And just like Catt said, you don't know what you don't know. We get a lot of that feedback from people who come to our Vendor 101 class. They said, well, I was just thinking about being a vendor, and I came to the class thinking you were going to tell me about getting my health department permit. And I walked away knowing pages and pages and pages of notes worth of things that I just never knew I needed to know. So going to the Farm Bureau or whatever other classes are available to you, you might not know what the value is going to be of taking a class like that, but really we just kind of urge you to check those things out, because there might be information you don't even know that's missing from your business plan. Missing. Yeah, so jump in there and kind of get in that community.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
So market managers, that's a group that needs to be really careful to weigh what seems like quick solutions against long-term success.
Please.
We've been doing this a really long time, and we're very clear on how we curate and what our criteria is. Farms first, focus on the farmer. Food makers and prepared foods, we still want them to have a connection to a farmer, local ingredients, a certain quality of product, and a professional kind of look when they come into our market. And even knowing all that, we just expanded one of our markets. We added a big new section of street, so we got a lot of space to fill. At the same time, we're coming up on January 1st. Thank you, City of San Diego, and how our permits work. So we have to make this big change right when there's turnover in the market. But, I know we got a little nervous a couple of weeks ago, and I considered a couple of applications that I normally wouldn't consider. Not enough local ingredients. One of the products had an ingredient in it that we don't usually take. I mean, it's not poison, but it's just not natural. There was an artificial flavoring in it that we don't usually accept. And I considered, well, you know what, let's just slide these in maybe. We got a lot of space to fill on Hornblende Street, and it was good of you to bring me back down. Bring it down.
It's good to have a partner sometimes.
It is good to have a partner and say, would you normally take them? And, we will have other applicants. We'll fill up with people that fit our vision more. And you got to do that. I know it's really tempting when you have space to fill, whether you're a brand new market or you've adjusted or you've had maybe one of those runs when a whole bunch of vendors at once retire or move away or whatever. So that seems to kind of go in shifts. And you're nervous and you want to fill those spaces. There's a temptation a lot of times to kind of lower your standards or adjust away from what your vision is. And that's a good answer for next week, but it's not a good answer long term.
Exactly. And I have to kind of take our own advice, and it's just, we don't, at least we don't at our markets, we don't ask vendors to leave. No. Very, very rare occasions, only if there's a huge issue like a personal, or kind of tardiness or something issue. But we're not going to accept a vendor and then later be like, oh, well, that doesn't actually align with us. We knew it didn't align with our criteria, but we were in a rush and now you're here. But you know what? We filled up a couple other spaces, so you need to leave the market now. That's not fair to do to the vendors and farmers. So we wouldn't do that. So we have to be careful at the very beginning before they even start at the market to really make sure that they really do align with our criteria and kind of our mission as our farmers market management group. So every market, like I said, is a little different. So what is your vision for your market? How do you want it to? It should be cohesive. There should be kind of a theme at your market. So we're kind of farm forward. We look at ingredient lists. We look at kind of professionalism, things like that. So look at what's the kind of businesses you want to bring to the market. And you're not going to get more of what you'd like if you start adding in a bunch of vendors that are not aligned with what you'd like.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had, sometimes in forums and things, I see people say, oh, well, I need to add a bunch of vendors so that I look like a bigger market so that the really good farmers and vendors will come in. They're not going to do that if what you've done is fill up your spaces with people that aren't professional or whose product is not of good quality. People don't, people have that old thing where you're judged by the quality of the company you keep. And we find that the really high quality farmers and even the high quality food makers and crafts don't want to be in a market that's full of kind of schlocky stuff or things that are thrown together that don't have a professionalism level that they're comfortable with.
Exactly. Yeah. And people might come to your market once to check it out because they're in the neighborhood for that day. And that's the idea of your market that they're going to have forever. If anyone ever asks them about that market, they're going to say, it had kind of like a hodgepodge together. So I'd rather have them say, oh, it was kind of small, but very good vendors.
Right.
Than say, it was full, but not a bunch of stuff that I would buy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Same thing about starting a new market in terms when you're talking about small, large. We've seen really successful long-term markets that have as few as half a dozen vendors. And, if you're in a small community and you're just trying to get fresh food out there, that can be a good thing, and that's fine. But if you're in a larger community and your actual goal is to have a very large market, you want to wait until you have critical mass to get started. If you start, I have so many people come to me and say, come start a farmer's market in our neighborhood. And I say, well, I don't think there's enough farmers available on that day. I don't think you've got the shopper count that justifies having a big market. And they'll say, well, let's just start with half a dozen booths and then we'll grow from there. We'll grow to a big market. And honestly, folks, you just won't. Because if you start with half a dozen booths, that's the first impression people are going to get when they come out to your opening day, and it's going to take you years for them to get that impression out of their heads if you do grow. So all those people that come out, and there's always more people on opening day than any other day until 2 years later, they're all going to have in their heads when their neighbor says, hey, let's go down to the market, they'll say, oh, I've been there, there's not much there. Yeah. It's a cute little market, but it's not really worth making the trip. 2 years later, at the Little League Mercado, actually, we've got 180, almost 200 tents on the street now. But we started with 40, and for, 3 years later, I was running into people that were saying, we're at 3 blocks now, and they were saying, oh yeah, I saw that. It was a cute little market. And we weren't really a cute little market anymore, but people who had seen us right at the beginning, it took a long time for them to overcome that first impression. So depending on the direction you're heading, you might want to just sit still, keep gathering vendors, keep scheduling ahead, and then open when you've got a real critical mass rather than thinking that you can start really tiny with the vision of big growth.
Exactly. Just tying back to what we're talking about, think about that long term. You have to start, at the right point so that you can make those long-term goals and kind of look into the future of the business that you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Short term, what looks like a solution today is not necessarily always putting you on the path to your long-term goal.
Exactly. I mean, it's hard to wait. But you're in it.
It is hard to wait. I want to do this. I want to do it right now.
I know. You get really excited. You think someone else is going to do it before you, all those things. But really take your time, even if it means some delays, and build something you can be proud of for years and years. And years and years and years and years.
And years and years and years. Years to come.
Years to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
excellent. It. Awesome. So
that's the message for today.
Excellent. That's the message. I like that message. I like to circle back to that during the year too. We'll do a couple other podcasts this year we have on the schedule to kind of talk about this, like check in with your long-term goals. I know we've talked about that before. Write down some stuff now if you're just getting started and then check back in with that. We just got the Food Biz Wiz journal from Allie Ball. Oh, it's for retail vendors that are going into retail, but it kind of reminded me, like, write down some goals that you have right now for different projects that you're working on or markets that you're expanding or new vendors, things like that. And then check back in with that and,
keep asking yourself, did I progress my goals today?
Exactly. Yeah, I like that idea. All right, so we're guessing if you're planning to attend Intense the Farmers Market Conference, you're already registered.
We hope you're already registered.
But if you're like us, you're waiting to the last minute.
I never wait to the last minute for conferences. But maybe
I
we
do. But we did just have someone ask if tickets were available at the door. So those are my people.
Those are your people. Okay.
Even though I don't like it as someone running the conference because I want everyone to have like a personalized name tag and all those things. So you might miss out on those kind of things. But technically, Marina Village is very large.
It's large.
We do have room. Yeah, they have millions of chairs. They can just keep adding them. So there will be some spots, so you can register at the door, I suppose. But if you're listening, what's today, Monday, January 27th, you can register online.
A couple more days.
Yep, please. And if you're coming, we can't wait to see you in San Diego. The end of this week. Let's call it the beginning of next week. I don't know why you're rushing.
It starts on Sunday.
That's the beginning
What's the
of
first
a
day
new
of the week?
Sunday.
No, Monday. Monday.
Yikes.
Oh.
Depending on
The endless debate.
depending on how you look at your calendar.
Yes. It's either starting the end of this week or the very beginning of next week.
The Crackadon in the next week. No, not really the Crackadon. But we're very excited. And if you're not coming, we will definitely miss you. We know some people can't make it. We've had a lot of emails and kind of messages about people that were really hoping they could come or were trying to come and just couldn't finagle it for this year. But just want to stay in touch. So stay tuned for ways you can access some of the conference content and even more resources from your own tent.
That's right.
Your very own market. All right, thanks so much for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us how you're enjoying Tent Talk. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Let's stay in touch. And if you want more farmers market tips, tricks, and information, you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter at farmersmarketpros.com. And definitely follow us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros, and you can find us on Facebook at Intense the Farmers Market Pros. So stay in touch with us. This podcast is produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded by Adam Samaha and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thanks so much for listening.